So I put in all new corner posts, ran barbed wire, moved my gate over here, and there's just one last thing I need to do in order to finish setting up this gate. Well, I have an electric gate opener, so I'm going to mount this here, but I've got this old latch in the way. So I got to grab the grinder and just cut this off and get rid of it. I'm not using it anyway. And that way I can still use this angle iron to bolt the latch for the electric gate up here. I've got electricity in the shop, and I might be able to pull a couple cords from around the homestead and run an extension cord all the way to the gate. But why would I do that? Having a power station like this Opus Mega 1 on the homestead is invaluable. This really is one of the most powerful and loaded power stations in this price range. Something pretty amazing about this unit is you can extend the batteries, so you can add extra batteries. Many stations don't allow for expansion. So being a budget-friendly or a frugal power station to begin with, and the fact that you can expand it, makes this a pretty good power station. On top of everything else, something cool that Opus does is Opus Help. They've provided grants to over 140 people scattered across the United States. And if you need help, it's easy to apply. I'll put a link down below. Maybe they can help you out if you can't afford a power station like this. One of the worst things you run into with cheap power stations is customer service. Opus has a United States call center. It makes a big difference being able to interact with customer service and a company that actually backs up or warranties the products that they put out there. At the cost of an entry-level power station, I like that the Mega 1 accepts up to 800 watts in MPPT solar panel input. The 2000 watt inverter will handle most of your needs for tools and whatnot around the homestead. And while UPS is an expensive feature, they do have a similar EPS function that I recommend that you check out. When it comes to frugal power stations, the Mega 1 by Opus really is a good power station at an entry-level value. So one of the cheapest power stations of this size on the market right now. So check out the links below, and we'll get back to the video. All projects around the homestead start with a trip to the city. So I ran and picked up 20 bags of concrete, my posts, my barbed wire, my T-posts, and so on. It wasn't supposed to rain, so I didn't cover it, which is a surefire way to make sure that it rains. I ran out and got soaking wet while I covered my concrete, but thankfully the next day it was okay. And this is the original fence. When I moved out here, I had no money. Most of this is scrap material. It did the job, but real sloppy, and I'm really excited to get these solid corner posts in and remove this old rickety fence. I cut corners when I can, but the point here is to make the very best fence at the most affordable price point. For that reason, because I've had no problems whatsoever using regular 4x4s and not treated, in this scenario, that's what I went with, because the post is 2 feet in the ground, covered in 2 feet of concrete, and then I'll rub it down with oil and diesel like all the other wood around the homestead, which has been perfectly fine going on 5 years. When I decided where I wanted the fence, I ran a piece of twine from one corner post to the other, and that way you can run yourself a nice line. And I'm using 7-foot T-posts, so I just used the T-posts to measure spacing. I laid it down almost to its end, and then drug it over and laid it down almost to its end again. That gave me about 14 feet, and I added about a foot to that. If you're using 6-foot posts and you do the same thing, you're going to turn out with a shorter span, which is better for shorter posts. with the twine stretched, I'm able to lift up a T-post, hold it close to where the twine is, and let it dangle freely, and that way it finds its own plumb, basically, and I have a pretty good idea where is going to be level for the T-post. Then I slide the T-post slammer over the top, get everything centered. After the first slam, it rotates the T-post a little usually, so I'll usually straighten it out, and then I can go to town hammering the T-post into the ground. You want the ribbed side of the T-post facing out toward the fence that's going to be pushed in. You know, so if you're keeping horses on the right side of the fence, so then I want the ribs out there. Set your spool up on one side, on the side that's ribbed where you're going to run the wire, far enough so that it doesn't get caught up on anything, and you should be able to pretty smoothly unwind your barbed wire all the way to the corner post. Then measure up how high you want that first strand. You start from the bottom and run strands up and tie the barbed wire around, and then loop it around itself at least 4 times to make sure that it doesn't come undone. On the side with the spool, you'll pull out enough wire that you'll be able to wrap it around the post on this side, cut it, and then if you haven't already cut a loop, you'll cut a loop, measure up, wrap the barbed wire around the post so that you have somewhere to connect your come along. You can pull the barbed wire and attach the barbed wire puller. You want it to be about 3 or 4 feet away from the post you're pulling it toward to make sure there's enough room on the come along to pull it properly tight. As the barbed wire tightens, make sure to go back and check to see if the barbed wire's caught on anything, because it often is, and if you were to pull it tight in that scenario, you could definitely do some damage. While I'm cranking it tighter, I watch the loop that I made on the post near me, and that way if I see it starting to unwind, I know that I'm tightening it too tight. Then I can pull up the loose piece of barbed wire, wrap it around the post, twist it around itself at least 4 times, and then I can release the come along, and I've got a nice tight strand of barbed wire. Next, I put on the wire clips, because as I pull up the next line, it's best to have the wire firmly in place around the T-post. It makes it easier to run the next lines, to do the clips first rather than at the end. $55 degrees this morning. It's definitely getting cooler. I'm going to feed the animals real fast, and then I'll get to work running wire from the new fence corner post from that side to this side. Then I'll just have to connect the front where the gate is. So the gate is going to have posts similar to the corner posts. I take the digger and go down 2 feet, put in a 4x4 post, make sure it's level, fill it with concrete, and then I cut a 45 on 2 4x4s, measure 48 inches up the post, and attach them. So I dig the end out that it goes into the ground about 1.5 feet. I wedge them into the ground there and screw them to the post, at a 45-degree angle. So one running the way that the fence is running and one running into the homestead. I measured from the base of the post hole digger 2 feet up and made a mark on the handle, and that way I know right when I get to 2 feet. I don't need to pull out a tape measure to make sure. So I've already got a gate that I'm moving out, and so I'm pulling out the 45-degree cuts for the 4x4s, and I'll use them at the new gate. Here you can see the post in 2 feet of concrete and about 1.5 feet on the angles that come down at 45 degrees. If you wanted to fence 1 acre, you would need 18 posts, so 3 for each corner and 3 for each post for the gate. You'd need about 40 7-foot T-posts, so roughly 10 down each side of your acre. 2 rolls of barbed wire that are about 1,400 feet each. That'll give you a little extra probably. You could run 4 or 5 strands roughly. And 12 bags of concrete should be able to fill up each of those post holes for you. For a grand total of $806, you can have yourself a fenced 1 acre. If you can't afford that, you can do what I did when I started and just threw sticks in the ground and some polywire pretty much. And it worked. I had horses this whole time. It was okay. But it's just nice to have a strong, good-looking, frugal fence that's going to last a long time. So for now, there's only a gate on this side of the fence. The fence goes halfway through the corral. So I need to put in another gate on the other side of the corral so I can let the horses out onto pasture. But for now, I had to walk Sage through and let him out the gate so he could come out here. And now I can close him out on pasture, not locks. And now I can let Ginger out of the stables into the round pen. I can't just let her roam free because she would be out here on the homestead. I can't let them both out because she's in heat. But as you can see, the fence comes halfway into the middle of the round pen. I've got a gate on one side and I'll set one up on the other side. So all this fence will just come down and this will all be part of the homestead now. Roger sent in another package of snacks. Marrow snacks. So this is the peanut butter flavor. And the one that he sent before, was it beef? And then Denta sticks. So a nice box of Denta sticks. Thank you, Roger, for helping out and supporting the animals on the homestead. This stand for my camera phone was sent in by Old Enough to Know. I've already used it multiple times for videos and lives. So thank you for sending that in as well.